Hi guys, in this video we're going to cover one of the very recent and important notification of RBI which pertains to Legal Entity Identifier Code, and the exact notification relates to Legal Entity Identifier Code for participation in non-derivative markets. So this topic is important for RBI, NABARD and SEBI examinations. So this is basically the notification which has been issued by the RBI, and it says Legal Entity Identifier Code for participation in non-derivatives market. So if you have to participate in non-derivatives market, then you must obtain this Legal Entity Identifier Code. So let's start our discussion with LEI code, that is Legal Entity Identifier Code. So this code is basically conceived as a key measure to improve the quality as well as accuracy of the financial data systems, and the purpose is better risk management, especially after the global financial crisis. So this is basically a code which helps in improving the quality and accuracy of the financial data systems and helps in better risk management. It is a kind of global reference number, and this kind of a reference number is going to uniquely identify every legal entity or a structure that is a party to a financial transaction. So be it any legal entity, and if it's entering into any financial transaction, the entity would be uniquely identified by this particular LEI code. Globally, the use of this particular code, it has expanded and it's being used in all the areas, be it banking, be it securities market, be it credit rating or market supervision. So this LEI code is gradually catching the attention of the world, and it's being used in diverse different areas. So if we take a look at the structure of this particular LEI code, then the most important thing we have to remember is that it's a 20-digit unique code. So it's going to be a 20-digit code. And further, in this particular code, there are going to be alphabets as well as numerals. So this is a alphanumeric code. So you can see here there is one LEI code for one of the banks, and you can see that this comprises of 20 digits, and the first 4 digits, they are LOU identifier prefix, which is used to ensure uniqueness among codes from the LOUs. What are LOUs? We are going to study in the coming part. Next is the entity identifier. So next one is more specifically related to the entity, and the last 2 digits, they are basically kept as check digits for verification purpose. So this is the broad structure of this legal entity identifier code. Now, why there was a need for such kind of a legal entity identifier coding system? Now this particular system, it was developed by G20. Now what is G20? G20 is an international forum in which the governments as well as the governors of the central bank of top 20 nations, that is 19 countries and 1 European Union, they participate and discuss and deliberate on important issues pertaining to the economy. So it was founded in 1999, and the aim was to discuss policies pertaining to the promotion of international financial stability. So the central bank governors and the financial ministers, they basically meet regularly, and they discuss about how to promote financial stability at the international level. So there are regular interactions, and the purpose is basically to improve the global economy. So this was developed by G20 in response to the inability of the financial institutions to identify the organizations uniquely. So financial institutions, they must be able to identify an organization uniquely in order to make sure that the financial transactions of any organizations, be it in any jurisdiction across the world, can be fully tracked. So if there's an entity which is coming to a bank in Switzerland, and there's this same entity which comes to a bank in India, so those particular banks, they should be easily able to track what is the credit score of that particular entity with the other bank in Switzerland, and vice versa. So that's the purpose basically for this legal entity identifier system. And the first legal entity identifier codes, they were issued in December 2012. So this is basically a new system, but it's gradually gaining attention. Now, how can entities obtain this LEI code? Now entities can obtain this code from any of the LOU. So if you remember, LOU was mentioned in the structure also. So LOU is the local operating units. So if you have to obtain a legal entity identifier, then you can obtain it from any of the local operating units which have been accredited by the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation. So this is basically the global foundation, but then again it has different branches across the world, and if you have to obtain this LEI number, you need not go to this particular global organization. You can simply visit any of the local operating unit which will allot you this legal entity identifier code. And if we learn more about this Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, then this was established by the Financial Stability Board in June 2014, and it is basically tasked to support the implementation and use of this legal entity identifier code. Now this foundation, it's basically backed and overseen by the Regulatory Oversight Committee of this LEI, and it represents public authorities from around the globe. And these public authorities, they have come together to jointly drive towards transparency within the global financial markets. So different countries, they have come together with the help of public authorities, and now they are working towards financial transparency in the global financial markets. And so this particular organization, it is a supranational authority. So it supersedes the national organizations, and that's why it's above the nations. So that's why it's a supranational authority. And then again, its motive is not to make profits, but to ensure transparency within the global financial markets. So this is a not-for-profit organization, and its headquarters, they are located in Basel, Switzerland. Now, if you have to obtain this LEI code in India, then this code can be obtained from the Legal Entity Identifier India Limited, LEIL. So this is basically the organization is in India, which is the local operating unit for this global foundation, which we just studied in the previous slide. So the rules, procedure and documentation requirements, if you have to obtain this LEI code, you must ascertain them from this Legal Entity Identifier Limited. And the entities which are undertaking the financial transactions, they must ensure that their code is current under the rules of the global system. If their code has lapsed, then this is going to be invalid code, and they must obtain a fresh code, or they must get their codes renewed. So if you talk about this Legal Entity Identifier India Limited, so this is basically a wholly owned subsidiary of Clearing Corporation of India Limited. So this is local operating unit for issuing globally compatible legal entity identifiers in India. And the most important aspect is that it has been accredited by the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation as a local operating unit. So we have to remember about this particular foundation also, that this is the local operating unit for India, and it is a wholly owned subsidiary of Clearing Corporation of India Limited. Now, if you talk about this implementation of this LEI system, then this has not been a radical reform measure, rather it's been a gradual or a phased reform measure. So this system has been implemented in a phased manner for participants other than individuals. Firstly, in the over-the-counter markets for rupee interest rate derivatives, foreign currency derivatives and credit derivatives, and this was in effect from the RBI circular, which was dated June 1st, 2017. And then for large corporate borrowers of the banks, the system was also introduced in terms of the RBI circular dated 2nd November 2017. So this system has been implemented in a phased manner, initially for over-the-counter markets and then for large corporate borrowers of banks. Now the statement on development and regulatory policies of the first bi-monthly monetary policy statement for 2018-19, that is 5th April 2018. This particular statement, it mentioned that it is proposed to implement the LEI mechanism for all the financial market transactions undertaken by non-individuals in interest rate, credit or currency markets which are regulated by RBI. So basically the intent was to expand the LEI mechanism for all the different kinds of financial market transactions. And accordingly, draft directions, they were issued for public comments on 20th June 2018, and subsequently based on the comments which were received from the public, the directions have now been finalized on this particular part, and the directions on requirement of LEI code for participation in non-derivative markets have been recently notified. So if you talk about mandatory LEI code, Now, which entities would now have to obtain this particular code and what's going to be the timeline and all? So all participants other than individuals who are undertaking transactions in the markets regulated by RBI, be it government securities market, be it money market, and non-derivatives forex market as well. So they have to obtain this legal entity identifier codes and they have to be attained by the due dates as has been specified below. So basically all the participants who are being part of the transactions which are transactions in the markets which are regulated by RBI, be it the government securities, money market or non-derivative forex market, then this LEI code has to be obtained, and for this particular code there is a schedule for implementation. And if you look at this particular schedule, this is a 3-phase schedule. In the first phase, if the entity has net worth above rupees 10,000 million, then they have to obtain this particular LEI code by 30th April 2019. And if the net worth of the entity is between rupees 2,000 million to rupees 10,000 million, then they have to do so by 31st August 2019. And if the net worth of the entities is up to rupees 2,000 million, then this has to be achieved by 31st March 2020. So again, a phased manner or phased approach of implementation has been proposed by the RBI. Now, if we talk about the requirement of this particular code, then only those entities that obtain this particular code shall be able to undertake transactions in the financial markets after the due date of its notification. Further, non-resident entities who are undertaking financial transactions in the relevant markets, they would also require this LEI code. So even the non-resident entities, they must obtain this particular LEI code in certain special cases. Also, transactions undertaken on recognized stock exchanges, they are outside the purview of the LEI requirement. So if you are trading on the recognized stock exchange, then you are not part of this LEI requirement and you need not obtain this separate set of code in that particular scenario. Further, such entities that are not legal entities in their country of incorporation, for example, funds which are operated by a non-resident parent or a management company, shall use the LEI code of the parent or the management company. So if you are not a legal entity, then you have to use this code of your parent or the management company. Further, entities responsible for executing transactions, reporting or for depository functions in these markets, they should also capture the LEI code of the transacting participants in their systems. So it would be useless if the participants just obtain the LEI code and we do not inculcate LEI code practices in our financial system. So that's why all the entities which are involved in these kinds of transactions, reporting, etc., they have to capture this particular code of the parties which are transacting on their systems. So this was all about our discussion on this particular notification. Now let's talk about some of the important MCQs which can be framed out of this topic. First question: LEI code is a global reference number that uniquely identifies every legal entity or a structure that is party to a financial transaction in any jurisdiction. Full form of LEI is Legal Enterprise Identifier, Legal Entity Identifier, Local Entity Identifier, or none of the above. So this we have covered that the full form of LEI is Legal Entity Identifier. So the answer is going to be option number B. Next question. LEI is a dash digit unique code to identify parties to financial transactions worldwide. Options are 10, 12, 15 or 20. So we have seen this that LEI code is a 20-digit code. So that's why the answer is going to be option number D. Next question. Which of the following is correct with regard to the LEI code? LEI code was developed by BRICS in response to inability of the financial institutions to identify organizations uniquely. Now the first one, this is incorrect one because it was developed by G20 and not BRICS. Further, the first LEIs, they were issued in December 2012. Both of the above or none of the above. So we have studied this that the first such codes, they were issued way back in December 2012. So the answer is going to be option number B. Next question. Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation is, options are a supranational not-for-profit organization headquartered in Basel, Switzerland, a supranational profit-making organization headquartered in Basel, Switzerland, a supranational not-for-profit organization headquartered in Washington, USA, or a supranational profit-making organization which is headquartered in Washington, USA. So we have learned about this particular foundation and we have studied that this particular foundation is headquartered in Basel, Switzerland. So that's why the answer is going to be option number A. Next question. All participants other than individuals undertaking transactions in the markets regulated by RBI, with government securities market, money markets, and non-derivative forex market with net worth. Options are: above rupees 10,000 million shall obtain LEI code by 30th April 2019. Between rupees 2,000 million and rupees 10,000 million shall obtain LEI code by 31st August 2019. Up to rupees 2,000 million shall obtain LEI code by 31st March 2000. So this we have seen that all these timelines with regard to obtaining of this LEI code, they are correctly mentioned here. So the answer is going to be option number D. Next question. Legal Entity Identifier Limited in India is a wholly owned subsidiary of. Options are: Clearing Corporation of India Limited, Reserve Bank of India, National Payments Corporation of India, or Securities and Exchange Board of India. So guys, we have studied this one, that Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, it is a subsidiary of Clearing Corporation of India Limited. So that's why the answer is going to be option number A. So guys, these are the answers. So guys, this is all about our discussion on one of the very recent RBI notifications pertaining to Legal Entity Identifier Code. So guys, this was all about our discussion for today. If you have any query, you can drop us a mail at hello@edutap.co.in, or if you want to know more about our courses, you can visit our website at www.edutap.co.in, or in case of any query you want to get into touch with us personally, you can call us at 8146 207 241. So friends, if you enjoyed watching this video, please like the same, share it with your friends, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And in case you wish to get regular updates from us, you can even join our Telegram channel, the link of which is given here as well as in the description of this particular video. Now, an additional benefit which you can get by joining this Telegram channel is that you can fetch the PDFs of all the discussions which we are doing on YouTube through this particular Telegram channel, which is going to be very helpful for you in revision. So thank you friends, happy learning.